We were talking earlier about the depth of the Black Sea. I said, man, 4,000 to 5,000 feet, that seems deep. One of our listeners has looked it up for us. Thank you, Russell. Appreciate that. The average depth is about 4,111 feet, and its deepest part is 7,257 feet.
Wow.
That's deep. I mean, that's really
insane.
deep. Yeah. So anyway, they say that the drone went down in waters that are about 4,000 to 5,000 feet, which makes it very difficult to recover. So, and again, I don't they were very coy about how they explained it, but they said that we have the ability to mitigate the sensitive equipment on board, and by that I think they can destroy the sensitive components of that drone. So it'll be interesting to see if we're not operating in the Black Sea right now, at least from a naval standpoint. Drone standpoint, we're all over it. So here we go. All right, now let's move on to other news today. Time for our 2024 update. And we have it's all related to Ukraine for some silly reason today. It started when Tucker Carlson sent out a questionnaire to the known candidates to get their take on what was going on with Ukraine and Russia, whether they supported it. And then Ron DeSantis came back and said, well, it's a regional conflict and not really sure that it's in our vital interest to be there. And boy, did the debate begin, because I think that is the big debate in Republican circles is, do we have a vital interest in being in Ukraine? On one hand, you could say we don't have a real interest there, and let's be isolationists, let's stay home, let's not get involved. I get all that. The other side, and by the way, you don't like spending the money. I get that. I understand that as well. So there are a lot of people who don't like the idea of us going and being involved in what's happening over in Ukraine. The other side of it is that there are people who say, look, it's in our vital national interest. We have some interest in pushing back and not allowing Russia to just wake up one day and decide to change the borders of a sovereign nation. And there is a reason to bring security to Europe, because the general sense is after Ukraine, Russia would not stop there. But one way or the other, wherever you fall down on that, DeSantis came down as saying he didn't think it was in our vital interest, and a lot of people got upset. It even came up today at the Pentagon briefing when a reporter asked the Secretary of Defense under the Biden administration, is this in our vital interest to be, helping the Ukrainians?
In terms of the importance of Ukraine, first of all, we've seen bipartisan support for providing security assistance to Ukraine throughout up to this point. I expect that we'll continue to see that going forward. We've heard some senior leaders on both sides of the fence say that, and so I expect that we'll continue to enjoy that support. Ukraine matters. It matters not to just Ukraine or to the United States. It matters to the world. This is about the rules-based international order. It's about one country's ability to wake up one day and change the borders of its neighbor and annex its neighbor's sovereign territory. And as we've seen, countries around the world don't think that's a good idea. And that's why you've seen 50 countries not only come to the initial meetings of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group, but they continue to come back and they continue to work hard to ensure that Ukraine gets everything that it needs to be successful. And that'll remain our focus going forward.
All right. So the Biden administration standing by their decisions. And he's right when he says leadership on both sides of the aisle has been supportive of providing support to Ukraine to battle the Russians. We're talking about leadership in the Senate, leadership in the House. Look, they continue to send a lot of equipment over there, spend a lot of money over there, and that doesn't happen unless the Congress signs off on it. And while there are those in Congress who definitely have concerns about it, it's clear that enough people are supporting it that they can go forward with that kind of continued support. However, it has, sort of started a debate. And here is some people pushing back about against DeSantis, saying, it is in our vital national interest. I'm going to go through a list of some who have gone on record. Senator Marco Rubio, Republican of Florida, pushed back against his home state governor for indicating that Ukraine and Russia was a territorial dispute, saying Russia's ultimate goal is to take over Ukraine. It's not a territorial dispute in the sense that any more than it would be a territorial dispute if the United States decided it wanted to invade Canada or take over the Bahamas. Not bad ideas, actually. Rubio said in an interview, just because someone claims something doesn't mean it belongs to them. So that's Rubio. Lindsey Graham, I know many people roll their eyes with Graham. He pushed back against what DeSantis said. This one, I'm not sure that I would consider this a positive thing. Liz Cheney, former Governor Nikki Haley, who has announced her candidacy, believes that it is it is something that perhaps is wrong. He's something that it'd be wrong not to be involved. John Cornyn, the senator from Texas, said he was disturbed by DeSantis' comment on Ukraine, arguing it's important for the U.S. to continue its support of Kyiv. I'm disturbed by it. I think he's a smart guy. I want to find out more about it, but I hope he feels he doesn't need to take that Tucker Carlson line to be competitive in the primary. It's important for us to continue to support Ukrainians of Ukraine for our own security. Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi pushed back against what DeSantis said. Senator Tom Tillis, a Republican from North Carolina, pushed back against it. So there you have it. I mean, clearly, DeSantis irritating a few of the what I would call establishment Republicans, and getting in line with those who say, no, we have no interest in being there, and let's quit sending our money. That's a legitimate debate that Republicans are having right now. We've had that conversation on our show where I opened up the phone. Some people think that there's a legitimate reason. Some people think there's no legitimate reason. So that's happening in the 2024 environment right now, having an impact on that race. Other stories that I want to bring to your attention: independent Latino voters are said to emerge as one of the largest swing groups for the 2024 election. This story comes from the Washington Examiner. First-time Latino voters are outpacing the number of first-time non-Hispanic voters in a number of key swing states ahead of the 2024 elections, raising the stakes for both parties to engage with the crucial voting bloc. The number of Latino voters 18 to 34 jumped in states such as Arizona, Nevada, New York, and Texas. A significant number of those new voters identify as independent or nonpartisan, opening the door for both parties to make headway before the 2024 cycle. It is clear the GOP made major gains with Latino voters in Florida during the 2022 midterm elections, with Governor Ron DeSantis winning in heavily Hispanic districts that no other Republican candidate in the state had won in several decades. So it's going to be real interesting, I think, to see where these Hispanics who now and Latino voters who now say that they aren't really connected to one party or the other. They vote their self-interest, and if you can make the case to them, they may come your direction. We saw tremendous changes in Florida. We saw tremendous changes among Hispanic voters in Texas. I mean, things happened in Texas that nobody thought was ever going to happen. Democrats have had a stranglehold on South Texas politics forever because of Hispanic voters. But those Hispanic voters switched parties almost overnight and surprised so many people. Is it the border? I don't know. Is it that Hispanic voters felt like they fared very well during the Trump era? I think it may be part of that as well. Man, I think that's interesting, and I think that's something to watch as we go forward in 2024. Speaking of 2024, there will be, of course, a race for the House and the Senate. There always is in the House, especially. Every 2 years, they got to run for reelection. And the Democrats are already starting to plot how they might claw the House back from Republicans. But there's a problem, and that is that at least 5 House Democrats have announced that they won't seek reelection and will instead run for the Senate, leaving some critical swing seats up for grabs. And Republicans are already homing in on which districts will be easiest to flip as GOP leaders fight to hold on to their slim majority. So, I mean, the Democrats run for the Senate. Usually it's because they're considered a very strong candidate, easily could be reelected in the House, might have a real challenge running statewide in their state for the Senate. But one way or the other, if they're out of the picture, there is a vacuum and there's an opportunity for Republicans. And so the more Democrats who decide that they're going to run for higher office or get out of the game, the better it is for Republicans, and it seems as if that is happening. So playing out in Arizona, where Representative Ruben Gallego of Arizona will forgo his House seat run to run for the Senate, currently held by Kyrsten Sinema, who left the Democrat Party to run as an independent. In Michigan, Alyssa Slotkin leaves open a crucial swing seat after the third-term representative announced she would be running to replace Senator Debbie Stabenow, who is retiring. So the NRCC is all hands on deck to add this seat to the Republican column, said one communications director for the Republican Congressional Committee. Yeah, the Democrats think they can do it, but I mean, honestly, these are really key seats. And it would seem that a real opportunity for Republicans. It's a long way. It's a long way off, I grant you. But it's never too soon to start strategizing. You got to have the right strategery, right? It is at 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Store, I'm telling you, one of my favorite places. When Cabana Wife and I went down to the Glock store, well, first of all, we wandered around, and it's just, sort of unbelievable place. It's 35,000 square feet. It's bright, it's shiny, it's new. It's got all kinds of people there who can really be helpful if you're trying to buy a weapon or something like that. But I went there for some training with her, and I thought, man, I was going to be the top dog. I was going to be putting the rounds down range and that she would stand in awe of her man. Well, it turns out it was the other way around. She was quite good, way better than me. But we both got some great training. We both learned a lot in our time there in the Shoot 270 rooms. It was time well spent, and it was a lot of fun. So if this sounds like something you'd like to try, why not book your couples session? Simply go to shoot270.com. That's shoot270.com. Click on Book a Shooting Session, or call the Glock store at 615-682-6565. Again, 615-682-6565. I think you're going to enjoy your time there, and you're going to get some great training. I'm telling you, these folks are sharp. Only at McGill's world-famous Glock store, minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere.
Coming up, we talk about the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, who spoke today, as well as some other news right here in Nashville concerning the Nashville Zoo. All that and more coming up 4 o'clock right here, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, I can't wait. I want to know. I'll be listening very closely. Hey, we've been talking about how the interest rates go up and up and up and up. They say this bank thing may actually cause people to get a cut in interest rates. They might actually cut. I'm not sure I completely understand it, but I have heard this report. Let's look very quickly at the markets. Dow Jones Industrial's down 280 points. S&P is down 27. The NASDAQ is up, but only slightly, about 5 points. Some people have said that the bank crisis is now spreading to Europe with Credit Suisse having a problem. This brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. Learn more at beaconcm.com. It is now 58 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk. Let me talk to you about the folks at Busy Bee. I mean, this weather, this crazy, wacky weather we've been having is a perfect example of how you may need them to work on your heating one day or your cooling the next. And at any time, they're there available to work on your plumbing. That's right, heating, cooling, and plumbing. Just give them a call at 615-775-7833. They'll buzz over to your house and put things in order in very quick, short order. So listen, you're not going to find a better value on HVAC and plumbing replacement systems, 12 months, same as cash. You might want to become a member of the Beehive Club for as little as $99. You'll get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges, 24/7, 10% off all repairs. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling at 775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com.
Four o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 55 degrees and sunny, and I'm sure that's music to a lot of y'all's ears after these chilly, chilly days we had these past week. Weather and traffic coming up in just a few minutes. Starting with some breaking news out of South Nashville. There was a huge fire at a homeless encampment underneath a bridge on Nolensville Pike again in South Nashville. It started because of an excess amount of trash underneath this bridge. It has since been put out, and traffic now is flowing again on that bridge on Nolensville Pike in South Nashville. We'll keep you updated with more right here on Super Talk as we get that information. The U.S. and Russian military leaders have spoken about the U.S. drone downed by 2 Russian jets this week. Andy Field gives us the latest from Washington.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin saying he immediately called Russia's defense minister when that country's jets brought down an unmanned U.S. drone over the Black Sea.
We take any potential for escalation very seriously, and that's why I believe it's important to keep the lines of communication open.
Secretary Austin calling Russia's engagement reckless, but wouldn't say how he resolved the incident with the Kremlin.
Here in Nashville, talking about the Nashville Zoo. They're having a dark fundraiser this spring, and it's for adults only. The event is called Sips for Species, and it's an attempt to raise the zoo's conservation efforts. There will be more than 30 stall samples of drinks and food trucks. People can also take part in close-up animal encounters. Sips for Species will be held from 6:30 to 9:30 on Friday, April 28th. General admission tickets are $80, and if you opt out of the drinking, tickets are $40. And staying here in Tennessee, a Middle Tennessee school district, which is running out of room, is proposing a costly venture to accommodate its growing population.
News 2 says Rutherford County Schools is announcing a $745 million plan to build more schools and expand current ones to keep up with the population growth. More than 50,000 students currently enrolled. Director of Schools Jimmy Sullivan says it will take building a new school every year to keep up. The plan could bring 6 new school buildings and the expansion to 5 others. The Rutherford County Commission, he says, is leading the funding efforts. Another challenge is staffing. Sullivan says they're looking regionally and nationally and completing a salary study to attract and retain the best teachers. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Retail shopping around the nation. Not quite so many Americans went shopping in February. This is from Alexis Christoforous.
Retail sales falling back a little bit. Looks like consumers took a breather last month. Retail sales were down 0.4%, but that's after consumers went on a buying spree in the month of January. Americans pulled back on spending at department stores, also restaurants and bars. We'll have to see if that spending rebounds this month. With many schools on spring break, we could see a bounce back in spending on travel and leisure.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. 7 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson. You're listening to The Drive, which you can hear on this quaint technology we call FM radio, or you can watch us, if you like, on Super Talk TV, on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Also, that ever-popular Twitch is out there. We've got a great show lined up for you, and a lot of stuff to cover. Yes, it is. Well, you know, it is. Oh, they're not done. I'm sorry. All right, I know. I just can't take any more of it.
Well, they were rude, just interrupting you. They just plowed right through you.
I know. They just, I mean, it's like I didn't even start talking. You think they would finish their song. Yeah, you're right. You know, when I started doing the woke world thing, I started looking for stories that I thought would fit into that category. And some days, the number of stories about the woke nonsense that's going on in this world is as long as my arm. And as you know, I have grotesquely long arms. They're ape-like, really. Today I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 7 stories. I probably won't get to all of them, but let me give it a try. This caught my eye because I'm telling you, my daughter went to this school district. She was not at this particular school, but my goodness. It's Montgomery County, Maryland, where Democrats outnumber Republicans 3-1. And there was a teacher who's at Bethesda Middle School, North Bethesda Middle School in Montgomery County. And she is an avowed communist. And she brags on her social media pages about spending a hard day indoctrinating her students. She is called for an urgent fight against capitalism while adding revolutions involved violence. This is a woman who is teaching children in a middle school. As a teacher, I wish we could do more with our students, like teach anti-racism and how to be kind to people. Maybe we could put off the math and science until next year. Okay. She clearly does not have an understanding of what she's supposed to be doing. She posted about providing Marxist literature to kids and said on her social media pages, F capitalism. I had to unbrainwash myself from capitalism in order to fall in love with socialism and communism. If everyone had the same amount of money, then money wouldn't be worth anything. Capitalism must go. It goes on, and it goes on. It was not the first time that this teacher by the name of Rothstein appeared to suggest an endorsement of violent behavior. Regarding pro-Black Lives Matter riots that took place, there are so many, I can't say this word, in my comments saying, what about the burning of the buildings and the looting and the rioting? Why do you care more about buildings than human lives? She sort of doesn't have an understanding of something called law and order. It's like you're stomping around, all buildings matter. No, they don't. And the fact that you don't understand where the rage is coming from, why there is so much rage of burning buildings, that's the exact problem. I'm angry. It's weird as F that you're not. When I'm talking about the patriarchy or racism of police brutality, why would you not be angry? This is a woman who brags about, indoctrinating your kids into the ideas of Marxism and communism. Boys should get vasectomies at birth, she writes. I get this because I'm telling you, this kind of mentality does exist in our school systems. And this is, of course, in Maryland, and it's certainly not Middle Tennessee. But I'm telling you, right here in our own backyard, we have seen not quite as bad as this, but other evidence of people who have gone out and posted on social media who are teachers who think it's their job not to teach kids math and science and how to read and how to write, but to indoctrinate them into different ideologies that they think are important. And I bring it to your attention only because parents, you've got to know what's going on with your kids. You've got to know what's going on with the classroom. You've got to know what kind of things are being discussed. And if you, the only way you're going to find that out so that you can take action is to make sure that you are talking to your kid over dinner or whenever you have a time, it's some time, one-on-one time. You've got to find out what kind of things they're learning, what kind of things are being discussed. And when when your kid sends up a flare and you hear something, you're going, oh my gosh, you've got to be right down there. You've got to be right down there having a conversation, a full and frank discussion with the principal. Do not let this stuff happen to your kid. You know, the woke people are always trying to indoctrinate young people. And as it turns out, the government runs a series of schools, the Department of Defense. They have their own schools around the world. And according to this story in the Political Insider, the Department of Defense Education Activity Chief of Diversity, yes, there is one, Miss Calissa Wing, stirred up controversy over the proliferation of leftist ideologies. As a refresher, the DoD Education Administrator operates 160 schools across military installations in the United States and 11 foreign countries. And she apparently, the story goes, doing everything that can be done to put more woke literature in the schools. Again, if they have an opportunity, they're going to take it right now. And she sat down with the Military Times and explained that we must understand that she was in a space where I was the only person of color. And that she thinks is the justification for doing it. Again, you got to be watching. You've got to be paying attention. You ever watch The Office? Bell, are you a fan of the show The Office? I don't know. I mean,
Very much so.
Yeah, I didn't initially like it, and then I sat down and watched several episodes with my daughter one weekend and became very late in the game, became a fan of the show.
Exact same situation with me, except it was with my cat.
And of course, there is this guy who plays Dwight Schrute, and his name is, I believe it's Ryan is the way you pronounce it, Ryan Wilson. It's spelled strangely, but I think that's correct.
No, it's Rain.
It's Rain.
Rain? Is it Rain? Okay. And so, excuse me for that. I apologize. Dwight Schrute is such an unlikable character in the show that it's hard to understand that he's a pretty decent guy and a pretty good actor, by the way.
Great.
He really is. He says, I do think there's an anti-Christian bias in Hollywood. As soon as the David character in The Last of Us started reading from the Bible, I knew he was going to be a horrific villain. Apparently, he plays this character. Could there be a Bible-reading preacher on a show who is actually loving and kind? Wow. Here's a couple funny things about the anti-Christian bias in Hollywood. My opinion tweet was picked up as front page news by Fox News. An organization created. Oh, there we go. It just, I mean, he said, he believes, then he did a complete turnaround. Oh my gosh. Now here I am defending him. And then I find out he completely walked away. I guess the pressure was too much in Hollywood. He had to do a complete 180. He said he's not a Christian. And he says some Christians are doing a great deal of damage to our country. But at one point he seemed to be defending Christians. And now after, I guess, the boom, the heavy hand of Hollywood came down upon him and warned him about the grave mistake that he was making, he changed his tune. Wow.
No more Megalodon movies for him.
That's right. Well, now I'm changing my whole opinion. He wasn't that good an actor. Let's just put it that
He's
way.
terrible.
He's terrible.
Oh, that stinks. I'm reading it now, too.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he started out and you think, well, here's
Yeah.
a decent guy standing up for Christians. And then you know what happened. I mean, the producers of the show called him in and said, "What the hell are you doing?
Yeah. Yep.
You know, you better get right, or you're gonna be finding yourself without a job." Anyway, Massachusetts high school solidifies state title with help from transgender girl. Again, this happens all over the place. A high school in Massachusetts thrust in the spotlight late last month as they picked up a state championship in girls indoor track and field with the help of a transgender student athlete. Chloe Barnes picked up 5 of Brookline High School's 63 points in the girls' 55-meter hurdles with a time of 8.72. Brookline won the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletics Association Division I Indoor Track and Field Championships. So, again, whatever happened to allowing girls to compete fairly in the field of athletic play? You see how many stories I've got to go through? This stuff is just everywhere. A New York employee has been fired for skipping LGBT training on religious grounds and loses his appeal. Federal Appeals Court rejected the case, according to the Washington Examiner, of a former account clerk in New York who alleged he was fired for refusing to attend a required LGBTQ training session in 2018. He worked for this company for 7 years prior to his firing. He sued the organization for what he likened to be an unlawful religious discrimination, seeking reinstatement, back pay, and $10 million. And he said he didn't want to attend. They said, you have to attend. They fired him. He filed a lawsuit against them, and now the court has said they had the right to do it. I don't know if this can go any higher in the courts, but it should. It could. I mean, it seems to me that you're talking about if the person is citing religious concerns, this goes against my belief system, then I don't know how you could. But again, they always say the workplace, they set the rules. You agree to work there, you got to follow their rules, or the door's right there. And then, again, this story that we have right now regarding Joe Biden. Some people have suggested it. I mean, I have been among them, that in some areas, the Biden administration is now looking for opportunities to look moderate because they understand that they're going to have to run for re-election and they got to appeal to the center, and they know that right now there's not much going on out there that appeals to the center. So they're trying to cherry pick a few things where they can at least make a case that they're not as weirdly liberal as they are. But if you look very closely, you'll find that they're still doing all of this stuff. President Biden now proposing federal legislation that force states such as Florida to allow doctors to perform sex change operations on children. Yeah. So much for centrism. They can't go very far. By the way, they tried to do something the other day. This is not woke news, but it's interesting. They tried to do a thing where they were opening up an area for oil production in Alaska. Well, then the other shoe dropped. They took away a huge tract of land and said there can be no drilling there. So not as accommodating to the middle as you might think. 21 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Let me talk to you about the folks over at USS. They can help you if you have a problem with your house, especially in the areas of waterproofing or foundation repair. Honestly, this is an area where you need advice. And this is not your area of expertise, unless you happen to be a structural engineer. You get the folks to come out and take a look at your problem. I mean, it could be a big thing that must be fixed. It could be a small problem that will become larger over time, or it could be nothing at all. But they'll give it to you straight. They'll give it to you honestly. They got over 23,000 satisfied residential customers. They'll come out. They'll assess the situation. They'll give you their advice. If you decide to go forward, you don't pay a penny till the job is done and you're completely satisfied. Financing is available. Lifetime warranties guaranteed for the life of the home. The goal here is for USS to take the stress out of all your home repair. They guarantee their best. Call USS, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, and Northern Alabama. Online at USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com. or call this number, 615-227-2275.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. Have you ever thought about why we invest in the stock market? Well, you often hear because we want to protect ourselves from inflation. Well, what is inflation? It's prices going up. Who's raising prices? Companies. What do you own when you own stocks? You own the companies raising prices, so it helps protect us from that. The other thing is this. Think about the most successful people you know. They're typically business owners. And you get to be a business owner when you invest in the stock market. Now, if we think about the stock market, a lot of people worry about, well, what if the stock market drops and it never comes back? Well, this is another thing that I like to explain to people. If the stock market goes down and it never comes back, what does that mean? That means that earnings went down and they never came back up again. So earnings went down. If earnings go down, what else goes down? Taxes go down. If taxes go away, what else goes away? The government goes away. If the government goes away, the FDIC goes away. So think about it. Everything is built on the stock market. That's why I don't ever worry about the stock market going down. Everybody has the same goal in mind when stocks go down. Get it to come back up because we got to get earnings to come back up. Now, you have two things at your control to get earnings to come back up. One is sales. We can change what we're selling or sell more of whatever we have if we can. And if we can't do that, we can reduce our expenses. And that's exactly what companies do. You'll notice that they lay off people when things get bad, and hence that is why the stock market has recovered from every downturn throughout all of history. Now, if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Collapsing banks. What's President Biden asking of Congress now? And the money news. What is going on today on Wall Street? All that and more right here. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 430.
Let's head down to the swamp. Well, actually, even though this is a swamp-related story, it didn't happen in the swamp. It happened down on the Texas border. You'll understand as I get deeper into this. Mark Green, our own Tennessee Mark Green, Congressman Mark Green is in charge now of investigating, what's going wrong with our border situation. And so he took his committee down to the border, a little place called Pharr, Texas, and it was going to hold an official committee hearing on the border. And the Democrats all decided not to go. Now, they decided, first of all, it would be deeply embarrassing for them to be down there. But this is their way of sort of turning their nose up at what they're trying. They'll say, well, it's a political stunt. Well, Mark Green was having none of that today. Here is audio from Texas today. Congressman Mark Green of Tennessee talking about where are the Democrats.
Now, this was supposed to be a full committee, but as you can see, the Democrats are not here. They decided to not show. Why? Well, they said coming here was just a political stunt. You tell me. Taking a hearing to the point of the crisis for a first-hand view are boycotting a hearing because you know we're going to shine a light on the truth. Which of those is the political stunt? I'd say the political stunt is these empty chairs.
I agree with him. Chicken. They were simply did not want to come and make an appearance. They're just. I mean, honestly, have some integrity about it. This was an actual congressional hearing, and I would say to those Democrats, you need to explain to your constituents why it is you decided to not go to an official congressional hearing that you're assigned to be a member of. You're on that committee. Why did you not go? Do you not think that we have a problem down at the border? I think that indeed they should have gone. Okay, well, there you have that. By the way, during that hearing, there was testimony from a Border Patrol chief named Raul Artez. Boy, talk about a difficult situation to be in. I think he's an honest man. And clearly, you'll hear he's an honest man. But boy, you're going to go and you're under oath and you've got to answer questions and you've got to be truthful, even if it goes against 100% against what the commander-in-chief and the Secretary of Homeland Security has said about operational control of the border. Here's that key moment. You can hear him weighing over in his mind, oh my gosh, I've got to tell the truth here, but there's going to be hell to pay later.
Chief Ortiz, does DHS have operational control of our entire border?
No, sir.
He did not elaborate, but he was honest. Of course they don't. The president says we have operational control. The Secretary of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, says we have operational control. The man on the front yard asked that question, on the front line, rather, right down there on the border says, do you have operational control, Chief?
No, sir.
No, sir, we don't. A little bit later, Chief Ortiz was asked a question about how many gotaways there are, and an honest number, because there are people that you come in contact with, and then there are gotaways that got across because you could see them with your cameras, you pick them up on your sensors, and so those are known gotaways. And then there is the unknown number of gotaways that you don't know anything about. So how many gotaways are there down on the border, he was asked. Here's the answer.
At 385,000 gotaways so far this fiscal year, we continue to refine that number. I've got to do a better job of accounting for the actual encounters.
Chief, I have limited time. I just need a number. What percentage of the 1.3 that got away, how much more do you think got away that you don't know about?
In my estimation, based upon the situational awareness that I have, probably be between 10 and 20%, sir.
More?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Did you get all that? He's talking about 1.3 million known gotaways over a course of time. And he says the actual number is probably, because there are some that got away we don't know anything about, it could be as much as 20% higher. That last little part there, that's pretty important right there.
Probably be between 10 and 20%, sir.
10 and 20% more.
Okay, thank you.
Wow. So, at least he's honest. But there's a good man right there. A frustrated man, no doubt, trying to do his job down on the border. Got one hand tied behind his back by the Biden administration, putting these stupid rules and regulations in place, their interpretation of the law, which, by the way, I think they are unlawful interpretations. I heard the other day that that there's some chance that Mayorkas might actually get impeached. They might hold hearings, and then I heard it said that they didn't have the votes to go forward. Why not? The man is lying to Congress. The man has overseen a policy that is a disaster and not in the national interest of this country. And has made every city in America a more dangerous place and a more deadly place because of all of the fentanyl that's come across the border. I'm telling you, it's hard to understand. Mark Green doing a great job on this, by the way. This story, we began to tell you yesterday. There are little developments on it, but we'll get to this coming up in just a bit. It is now 32 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
.433 now. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. A beautiful day here today in Nashville. Right now, 56 degrees and sun still flying high. Not a cloud to be seen. Weather traffic coming up just a few minutes. The collapse of regional bank Silicon Valley Bank last Friday, then Signature Bank over the weekend. It sounded alarm bells with lawmakers. Alexis Christoforous tells us President Biden is now asking Congress to expand the number and size of banks that are subject to mandatory protocols.
These so-called stress tests that right now the large banks have to do, they have to make sure they have enough cash on hand for a serious problem like a deep recession. The same criteria would now apply to mid-sized banks, those banks that have $100 billion to $250 billion in assets. That would include First Republic Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, and Signature Bank, two of the banks that have gone under.
And over to the Money News, Daria Albinger.
From ABC News, Wall Street now. Stocks closed off their session lows, but still with considerable losses on worries about the stability of the banking industry. The Dow fell 281 points, the S&P gave up 27, but the Nasdaq rose 6 for the day. Investors became jittery as shares of Credit Suisse dropped to a new low. The Swiss financial institution had been fighting troubles for years. One analyst describing it as watching a train crash in very slow motion. Late in the session, Swiss regulators reportedly began talks to stabilize the bank. Banks a lot closer to home are also dealing with losses. First Republic sank more than 17%. JP Morgan Chase slid over 5%, but analysts say the U.S. banking industry is still healthy, and to remember that the FDIC insures deposits up to $250,000. In the midst of this all, a very encouraging report on inflation. The Producer Price Index, which shows wholesale prices, dropped an unexpected 0.1% in February.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
38 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. My favorite part of the week, or at least one of the favorite parts of the week that I have, is when we sit down and talk to Pete Hegseth, who is a weekend host of Fox and Friends and also a new resident of Middle Tennessee up in Sumner County, where the living is good, I understand. Did you survive the freeze there, Pete?
We did, and now it's a beautiful day, and I've got 6 kids in dirt bikes driving around me, so excuse the noise if we hear a little bit of it, but we're loving it.
That sounds like great fun. You mentioned earlier that your kids got dirt bikes for Christmas.
Yes, and they're getting put to good use. One of my kids just ran out of gas, so I walked quarter mile to go give him some gas.
All right. Well, thank you for taking time out of your family time to talk with us.
Of course, we love it. We're
right.
glad to be a part of the Tennessee family.
Well, we are always glad to have you. I mean, really, honestly, it's a great to be able to tap into your thinking from time to time. Let's talk about again, Russia, Ukraine. There's 2 things going on. Number one, a couple of Russian pilots engaged one of our drones, took it out. They had to splash it in the Black Sea, and that's one part of it. The other part of it is this incredible debate that is going on among Republicans, and I know you're sort of on one side of it, and I sort of lean a little bit the other way with regard to, do we have a national interest in being there? This all came up because Ron DeSantis answered a questionnaire from Tucker Carlson, and he said, no, I don't think it is in our national interest. It's not a vital national interest. This is a pretty interesting debate that's going on among people on the conservative side of the equation.
It's a legit debate. It's a useful debate. I respect those who I disagree with on the other side because I think their impulse is a good one to want to maintain American strength. And the question is whether or not, going all in on Ukraine does that. And I love the fact that the Republican Party is the clarifying position on this, and it will be. You said in those questionnaires, Donald Trump said he's the only one that can prevent World War III in his verbiage. And I think that the Trump folks are probably going to push DeSantis on his formerly more hawkish establishment Republican foreign policy views, which does create a contrast because Donald Trump crashed the party in 2016. I remember when he called the Iraq War dumb, and as an Iraq War vet, I was very offended by that when he first said it in 2015, 2016. Then you start to look around at the consequences of Iraq and Afghanistan and our policy around the world, and you start to say, maybe he's right. And I think the Republican electorate has moved a lot more in Trump's America First direction than foreign adventurism. Ron DeSantis knows that, and that was part of his answer in the questionnaire, which I appreciate. But it's also different than the stance he's taken for a while. So I think you'll see a flashpoint between the two of them. I thought COVID would be their disagreement point. But I think foreign policy may end up being a place where, Trump will go at DeSantis decidedly. But it's especially with the border and the Mexican cartels popping up, it's pretty hard on the Republican side right now to argue for more investment in Ukraine when we've got a full-on invasion on our southern border.
Yeah, it never has. I've never understood why you make the case that it's important to protect the borders of Ukraine, but not our own borders. The Biden administration, honestly, they can't defend that position, and it's not going to serve them well when we get to the election. Okay, the other thing with regard to Russia-Ukraine is, of course, that they intercepted one of our drones, and somebody who was on earlier, Pete, said they basically peed on our drone and then bumped into it and caused it to go into the Black Sea. The Russians were acting badly here. This is a scary thing at a time when tensions are very high between us and the Russians and all over the world, actually.
Well, it's the danger of a proxy war, is one miscalculation on either side, and you have a serious escalation. Now, I don't think we're blameless here at all. I mean, I know that recent intel reports in the news have tried to say that the Nord Stream 2 pipeline was blown up by Ukrainian supporters, but the expose previous to that pointed out with a great deal of detail that it was likely the Americans that blew up the pipeline, which would be, by definition, an act of war. So if, as you tit for tat, and you tolerate more or you invest more, the likelihood of full-out war becomes that much more likely. And I said this to you before, Brian, and this feels more like a World War I scenario than a World War II scenario. Alliances gathering, deepening, Russia, China, as we deepen as well, which means any miscalculation brings upon a response which could lead to an additional escalation. So I don't feel like at this point we should be investing or doing more. Responding to that should be a Ukrainian issue. Thank goodness it was a drone and not a manned flight, which would be a lot different.
Yeah, and then you mentioned China. Again, our relationships there continue to deteriorate, it would seem.
Oh, very much so. I mean, and they're only going to continue to deteriorate with Republicans in control of the House, with headlines that will come out if Biden, I don't know if Biden, has he signed that bill for transparency yet, which he's sitting on, which passed unanimously in the House and the Senate for the investigations into COVID origins?
No, I haven't heard of it. I don't think he signed it, and that's going to be an interesting thing, right? Yeah.
That'll be a pocket veto if he does, which would mean he would be overridden by the House and the Senate to get that particular intelligence. We're learning more about the ramp up of China. China's getting bolder as we look weaker. And I don't feel like flexing our muscles in Ukraine to no clear end state looks like strength. Crushing ISIS in 3 weeks looks like strength. Preventing the war in Ukraine looks like strength. But dabbling along in micro investments, I don't think it only makes China think our Taiwan endeavor could be more likely and possible.
I know this is a very special to you, especially when it comes to education. I started a little segment here that I called Woke World, and I started doing stories that about this woke thing or that woke thing, and I was talking earlier. I found like 10 stories today that would fit into that category quite well. It is really becoming increasingly clear that every opportunity, the Biden administration is doing everything they can to push a woke ideology, and they've got a lot of willing participants buried within government and even in schools around the country.
Oh, I think it's not just that it's more. I think it's that we're finally paying attention to it. It's the woke versus the awake. I mean, it's been there, and now parents know what the buzzwords are, right? DEI, inclusion, equity, democracy. You pick your word. They see that, and instead of saying, "Oh, that looks fine," they say, "Oh, that looks suspicious." And so they dig. They request for information. Their kids come home willing to share those stories. So the thing is, the unions still feel insulated. They feel like they can't be touched, and it's going to take Republican governors and a Republican president to really put them on notice, so that this isn't something you can sneak in. I saw a video of a mayor who went into a city council meeting recently, and I don't know where it was. I need to find it. And he said, it's come to my attention that you guys are pushing pornographic material into the school library and into some classes. Either you submit your resignation now or you will be charged. And he had checked with a judge. I think stuff like that, you just have to put people on notice that the law is the law. And in some states like Tennessee, thankfully, it works for us. In other states, not so much, which means you just got to keep exposing it.
I read a story earlier. This caught my attention because it was in the school district in which my daughter was raised back in Montgomery County, Maryland, just outside the District of Columbia. And the teacher was actively on her social media platforms talking about how she teaches Marxism in the classroom. And apparently, is against and teaches them to be against capitalism, and says revolutions involve violence. This is in a middle school. The thing is, I know you're in a place where your kids are not getting exposed to that kind of stuff, but I think parents don't know the kind of stuff that their kids are being exposed to.
For sure, because a lot of it is subtly buried into the curriculum under code words as well. I mean, Howard Zinn, who's a communist, wrote the biggest best-selling history book in American history called A People's History of the United States. It's a U.S. history written from the Soviet perspective. It was written in the early 80s. If it's not in your kid's classroom, it was used as the basis by which they write the textbooks for the classroom. So all a teacher has to do is add on top of a baseline which is already tilting left of center. I mean, I remember when I was in high school, I used to go home to my dad and say, "Dad, why is Ronald Reagan always the bad guy in the textbook? I don't get it." And this was only a decade later. They write the material, they hide it in there, and then teachers feel emboldened because nobody's looking and parents aren't holding them accountable. listen, when you send your kids to government schools in really any state, you're rolling the dice, and in some cases, you might as well just be sending them to Democrat camp.
Which makes it important for you to spend time with your kids, whether it's going out and riding mini bikes or whether it's sitting down at dinner and talking about what's going on in school. Pete Hegseth, always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Likewise. Thanks for having me. Love it.
All right, it's 49 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Grace Point Healthcare. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing, so you'll know how much it will cost before the care is actually delivered. They're best known for their Smart Care plans. $69 a month, you get unlimited office visits, free basic labs for the entire year. They even have premium plans where you can work in a couple of home visits a couple of times a year if that's helpful to you. And because they treat the whole family, even newborns, they have family plans as well. Now, here's how this works. You take one of those Smart Care plans and you marry it with your high-deductible insurance plan. You've got a 1-2 punch that could save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. No long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice, and Grace Point wants you to know they believe strongly in freedom of choice when it comes to vaccines for you and your children. Listen, Grace Point Healthcare is on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
The director of the Office of Management and Budget testified before the Senate Budget Committee about President Biden's proposed 2024 budget. Tops out at about $7 trillion, plus a fire at a homeless encampment. We learn more about that. 5 o'clock, Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
You know, I like Ryan Reynolds as an actor. Apparently, he's a pretty smooth businessman. He owns about 25% of Mint Mobile and does their spots.
Mm-hmm.
They just sold it for $1.35 billion to T-Mobile. And that means that his take on it at 25% ownership is $337.5 million. Yeah, not a bad day's work. He put out a statement. He does all their spots. He says, "We are so happy T-Mobile beat out an aggressive last-minute bid from my mom, Tammy Reynolds, as we believe the excellence of their 5G network will provide a better strategic fit than my mom's slightly above-average mahjong skills." I'm telling you.
He's funny.
He's a funny guy, but I'm telling you, the world just beats a path to this guy's door, doesn't it? He's a great movie star. He's an incredibly good-looking guy, if I can say that without sounding weird, and now apparently more rich than he'll ever be able to spend. Got more money than he'll be able to spend. What a deal that is. It is 57 minutes, making 58 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Let me tell you, if I could, about the folks over at Everseal. Let's talk about Everseal. What is it? Well, it's a technology that's really been around for ages in industrial applications. And the folks at Everseal figured out a way to provide this application to help seal your exterior wood and concrete around your home or your business, and it's at a price that you can actually afford. It starts by a deep cleaning all the way down to your wood or concrete, bring it back to look as new as it can ever look, and then they apply this patented seal. It will absorb all the way through to become a permanent part of your wood or your concrete and will prevent any further deterioration. You ready for this? For the next 30 to 50 years. You get a 25-year manufacturer warranty, but they say it will actually last much longer than that. What a deal that is. You know, how many times do you pay to have your concrete or your wood deck sealed? Why not do it one time and be completely done with it? If this sounds like something you'd be interested, reach out to my friend Steve Nelson and the team over at Everseal. 1-844-EVER-USA. That's 1-844-EVER-USA. Learn more at ever-seal.com.
Five o'clock, Mac Maury with your top stories. 56 degrees, a beautiful day in Nashville. Sun flying high, and that freeze warning, we can kiss that all goodbye for now. Going to be a beautiful rest of the day and into our evening. Weather traffic coming up just a few minutes. The director of the Office Management and Budget testified before the Senate Budget Committee on President Biden's proposed 2024 budget, of which Republicans have pushed back on. Em Nguyen has more from the nation's capital.
In a hearing with the Office of Management and Budget Director Shalonda Young, Senate Republicans criticized President Biden's proposed budget's top line of $6.9 trillion as a number that could worsen the country's inflation. Some conservatives expressed opposition to Biden's plan to raise taxes on America's wealthiest and corporations and are instead calling for billions of dollars worth in spending cuts. Democratic allies in the Senate expressed support for Biden's plan, saying it will reduce the deficit while protecting social programs.
Right now in Nashville, there was a massive fire at a homeless encampment underneath a bridge on Nolensville Pike. Channel 4's Danielle Jackson brings us some more details.
TDOT reopened the bridge about an hour ago. Fire officials and emergency officials got on the scene around 12:30 this afternoon. The bridge caught on fire, and we're told a man and a woman were arrested on the scene. They were both charged with reckless burning. Now, TDOT also inspected the bridge after this fire and then decided to reopen this road.
This fire is still being investigated. Staying here in the state, a Middle Tennessee school district, which is running out of room, is proposing a costly venture to accommodate its growing population.
News 2 says Rutherford County Schools is announcing a $745 million plan to build more schools and expand current ones to keep up with the population growth. More than 50,000 students currently enrolled. Director of Schools Jimmy Sullivan says it will take building a new school every year to keep up. The plan could bring 6 new school buildings and the expansion to 5 others. The Rutherford County Commission, he says, is leading the funding efforts. Another challenge is staffing. Sullivan says they're looking regionally and nationally and completing a salary study to attract and retain the best teachers. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Right now in the volunteer state, Clarksville police are looking for a 16-year-old boy who ran away from home on Saturday night. His name's Malachi Harney. He's about 5'7", weighs around 180 pounds, has black hair that's short on the sides. It's got twists on the top, and he's got brown eyes. He left out the door and then allegedly got in a vehicle and left. And you just heard your Farb scoop me on it, but it's a great story. Actor Ryan Reynolds, he just made a mint off of a mobile phone deal. Jason Nathanson explains.
Ryan Reynolds has been the spokesman and part owner of wireless company Mint Mobile since 2019, and that move just paid off big time. T-Mobile has acquired Mint Mobile's parent company, Ka'ena Corporation, for a deal said to be worth $1.35 billion. Reynolds and T-Mobile CEO Mike Sievert with the announcement in a video on social media.
Well, Ryan, we are so happy to have you and the whole Mint team join the T-Mobile family.
Well, I wouldn't call it a family, Mike. A family's a place for misdirected hopes and dreams. I'm hoping this will be much better than that.
The deal will reportedly net Reynolds hundreds of millions in cash and stock.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is 7 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. You're listening to The Drive here. We're going to get you home safely. We're going to bring you some information. I got a whole bunch of really just interesting stories. So just settle in, buckle up. We'll get you home safely. And in the meantime, you might learn a thing or two about what's going on in the world around you. That's our goal each and every day. You know what? The Biden administration, well, they have a history of just not telling you the truth. I mean, first of all, they said, we're going to take away your gas stove. And then they said, no, we're not going to take away your gas stove. It was just something we were thinking about. And then so we take that and we say, okay, well, they learned their lesson. There was a hue and cry, and they backed down. No, they didn't back down. They just changed their tactic. Their tactic is they set up new established guidelines for what gas stoves should do in the future. And effectively, that would eliminate about 90-some-odd% of the stoves that are currently on the market today. And they don't ever give up on anything. They'll just sort of change directions on what they're going to do. Here is a story from the Washington Examiner. The simmering controversy over a Biden administration gas stove ban has reignited. Not one, but two separate federal agencies are proposing studying regulations that would severely curtail the use of gas stoves for new construction that has renewed the culture war battle over the appliance. Instead of working to lower food prices for families and lessening inflation, the Biden administration's priority is to target as many as 40% of Americans and arbitrarily ban their gas stoves, says Heritage Action Executive Director Jessica Anderson. Biden's Department of Energy has weaponized the federal rulemaking process to push a radical Green New Deal agenda that is neither affordable for American families nor based in science. So they propose new energy efficiency standards, which the vast majority of today's gas stoves would not meet. Let's just review for a moment what Democrats have done to your house. My dear friends, you may not believe it, but there was a time. There was a time and a place when you could go to the bathroom and flush your toilet one time, and the matter would be resolved. But no, the Democrats came up with something. We're using too much water. And so they came up with what they call the low-flow toilet, and problems have been with us ever since. My dear friends, there was a time and a place where you could put the dishes in the dishwasher and hit a button and throw in a little soap, and miracle of miracles, a short time later, the dishes would come out spotless clean. But then, now, they decided we have to put some energy efficiency standards on these things. We have to limit the amount of water that is used in it. And you know what? They turned out to be not very good. Can you think of anything that the government has added a regulation to that made the product better? I would rather that the companies that make gas stoves decide what it is the consumer wants. In the free marketplace, if I want a stove, I want to look at a stove that's going to do everything I want it to do. I don't want to get a stove that meets the Green New Deal standards, because I saw what they did to toilets. I saw what they did to dishwashers. There's so many things we could talk about. How about the stupid gas cans? Have you tried to fill up a gas tank with one of these newfangled gas cans that the Democrats messed up? Used to be a very simple thing to fill up your mower. Now you need like 3 pairs of hands to do it. I still haven't figured out how to run the damn thing. Leave our stove alone. But no, the DOA proposals amount to a ban. They are not done with it. Don't let them off the hook. Express your outrage. And by the way, if you're thinking about buying a gas stove or oven, do it now before they start imposing these new regulations. A word to the missus on that one. The President of the United States is out here making a bunch of noise. Yesterday, he was doing an event talking about the need for more gun regulation. And once again, the president of the United States, starts throwing out about this nonsense. So you ready? Here we go.
And I'm determined, once again, to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. I led that fight to ban them in 1994. Ban assault weapons. Ban them again. Do it now. Enough. Do something. Do something big.
Well, he can make that noise all he wants to make, but the fact of the matter is, even when Democrats had both the House and Senate, they couldn't pass this legislation. It was never going to pass because no member of Congress, they don't have enough votes. They just don't have the votes. You can't even get enough Democrats to go along with the idea. So, he makes the noise, he pounds the table, but it is sound and fury that signifies absolutely nothing. I think this is what our president should be focused on. We talked about it yesterday. The Biden family business received a $3 million wire transfer from a Chinese energy company and a subsequent payments after President Joe Biden left the vice presidency in 2017. And then the money was the next day transferred to members of the Biden family, including a new member of the Biden family who has not yet been identified. That's going to be interesting. What's the thing to watch? Because the Republicans can now get a hold of these suspicious activity reports from the Treasury Department, and they're starting to look at them, it gives them the ability to actually do something that you always want to do in an investigation. Follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. So, watch, because I know you've heard this before, but the Republicans can actually get at these documents, and that opens up a whole line of investigatory opportunities. And I think that they'll be taking advantage of them in the days ahead. That story, I think, is finally about to break open. I saw this story today. They were showing a picture of what's going on at the courthouse in Amarillo, Texas. I must say, just from a personal note, it brought back memories because that federal courthouse there in Amarillo is a place where, as a young reporter, I stood during the coldest day of my life on the steps of that courthouse waiting for verdicts to come out. It looks exactly the same as it did, well, I won't tell you how many years ago, but it was a lot of them. There is a big case being considered in that courtroom, in that courthouse, by a Texas judge that would weigh whether or not there should be continued access to an abortion pill. I'm going to blow this pronunciation. Mifepristone is the name of the drug. It blocks hormones in the body and is used with the drug, I can't even begin to say this, to end pregnancy within the first 10 weeks. The judge hearing this is an appointed by President Donald Trump, confirmed in 2019, and it sounds as if, this judge everybody's sort of hoping he might just put an end to this. We'll see how that all happens. But again, that is pending now at a court in Texas with a judge who was appointed by Donald Trump. The Biden economy, which the president says is strong, seems to be falling apart everywhere, according to PJ Media, a great article. Falling apart, everything, everywhere, all at once, just like that movie title. The New York Stock Exchange halted trading of Charles Schwab at one point, whose share fell by more than 20%. Schwab's fall was the firm's most ever on an intraday basis, as company executives assured investors that Schwab's long-standing reputation as a safe port in a storm remains intact. Trading of shares in over 30 banks halted on Wall Street yesterday, as things got ugly with regard to the bank. People say, well, we haven't heard anything in a couple of days. I guess it's over. No, It's not over. I just want to, I'll give you a piece of advice. If you care about this story, about the banks that are going under, look at what Moody has done. Moody has listed several banks that could well be in trouble. And then look for things to happen on a Friday. The FDIC likes to come into town if they're going to take action against a bank late in the week, close the bank, open it up on the following Monday under, renew or different kind of leadership. Not necessarily ownership, but different leadership. And that's what I would look for. I would think, let's say this is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you may start to see some things happen, may even happen late on a Friday, so that, what they try to do is make this as seamless as possible. But you, the taxpayer, they say that you won't be taking any hits, but I'm beginning to do research that suggests to me, yeah, you probably will. Your taxpayer money will be going to solve some of these problems. And this is one weird thing. I'm just going to throw this out there. It's the only story I've seen on it. And again, it comes from the Washington Examiner. In a major reversal from just days ago, investors are now predicting big interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve as the financial sector is roiled by the fallout from Silicon Valley Bank's collapse. The Fed's target rate is currently 4.5 to 4 3/4, a huge increase from the ultra-low level it was a year ago. A month ago, the consensus was that rates would go higher as the bank tries to arrest inflation that has been racking households over the past 2 years. But now, with the failure of this bank, the paradigm has entirely shifted. There is now a 64% chance that the Fed will slash rates by at least an entire percentage point by the end of the year, according to CMA Group's FedWatch tool, which calculates the probability using futures contract prices for rates in the short-term market targeted by the Fed. There is also a 33% chance that the Fed's overnight rate will have been slashed to somewhere between 2.75 and 3.5%. So, everybody's really, been holding on to doing any real estate transactions, maybe feeling a little pain because they're paying a lot of higher rate on their credit cards. There is according to this report, there is a chance that this roiling in the banks may actually change things to the point where interest rates come down off these highs. We'll continue to watch it. 21 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Let's talk about Sylvan Health. That's SYLVAN Health.com. A personalized nutrition service covered by insurance. That's right. Let me explain. Nutrition, it can improve the way you feel, help you lose weight, manage health conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol. All of these things directly related to the foods we eat. And that's where Sylvan Health comes in. Sylvan connects you with a registered dietitian to help put together a nutrition plan for you without forcing you to cut out all the foods you love. Your dietitian will provide tools such as a meal plan, shopping list, restaurant guides. A few small tweaks to your diet can go a very long way. Appointments are done via video calls or over the phone, so you don't have to go in for face-to-face meetings. Here's the best part. This is the big part. The service is covered by insurance. That's right, 90% of patients have zero out-of-pocket cost. So schedule your appointment today, 833-279-5826, or visit sylvanhealth.com to take that first step toward looking and feeling better, utilizing the power of nutrition.
America and Russia now discussing yesterday's incident over the Black Sea, and B&A trying to create some more parking. That and more. 5:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 26 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. And guys, I think you'll love this story because, I stand behind no man in my appreciation of good buffalo wings.
Yeah.
I mean, really, honestly, they're pretty good. A man in Chicago who filed a class action lawsuit against Buffalo Wild Wings has lost in court. His name is Amin Halim. He tried to sue the popular sports bar chain over the marketing of its boneless wings. He argued that reasonable consumers are led to believe that the products are actually boneless wings. Well, they're not boneless wings. They're just white meat that have sort of cut.
Yeah.
In other words, the products are chicken wings that have simply been deboned and are completely comprised of chicken wing meat. Well, unbeknownst to plaintiff and other consumers, the products are not wings, but instead slices of chicken breast meat, which, of course, I knew that. If you ever had one, you'd know that.
Yeah, it's just basically a chicken nugget. A fancy chicken nugget.
Well, chicken nuggets are like an amalgam of all the meat that's left over from a chicken. But this is actually just a strip of breast meat is what it is.
I think you're not considering how negatively this impacted his life and changed its trajectory.
It triggered him to find out that it wasn't actually a boneless wing. The judge wasn't buying it. The case was dismissed, and Buffalo Wild Wings followed up with a response on social media. It's true. Our boneless wings are all white meat chicken. Our hamburgers contain no ham.
Nice.
Our buffalo wings are 0% buffalo.
That's good. A little sass from B-Dubs.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. I'm telling you, this isn't the first time that this guy has unsuccessfully sued a major company. He reportedly challenged brands such as Hefty, claiming its recycling bags aren't actually recyclable.
Same guy?
Same guy.
Wow.
Said that the case was dismissed as well. There's always somebody out there trying to, make a buck off some kind of loony lawsuit. But I love the fact that, usually what happens in a case, what happens in a case like this is the company usually says, just pay the guy some nuisance money
and just
to
shut
go
him
away.
up.
Yeah, and you write the check a guy for a small amount of money, and the lawsuit is dismissed. It's the way that they look at it in many businesses is better to do that than to have this become a story and we have to pay lawyers. Let's just pay them a small amount of money to go away, nuisance money. And a lot of people get paid nuisance money by filing these nuisance lawsuits. I don't know that this guy's the case, but it certainly happens.
Well, wait till he hears about hot dogs. He'll be real upset.
Yeah, they're not at all dogs. That's right. That's good. That's good. It is now 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thirty minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories right now. 56 degrees. It's just been a gorgeous day. And, folks, we deserve it after those two treacherously cold nights. We won't have that here tonight. It'll stay relatively decent temperature, similar, get down to those 40s, but not near freezing. Weather traffic coming up just a few minutes. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin speaking today about yesterday's incident over the Black Sea in which a pair of Russian fighter jets intercepted an American surveillance drone. Secretary Austin calling the move dangerous, reckless, and unprofessional, saying he's been in contact with Moscow now over the matter.
I just got off the phone with my Russian counterpart, Minister Shoigu. As I've said repeatedly, it's important that great powers be models of transparency and communication. And the United States will continue to fly and to operate wherever international law allows.
Tennessee U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn tells WTN's Nashville Morning News she's going to question Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen about the Silicon Valley Bank collapse during tomorrow's Finance Committee hearing.
This administration sending more money to a big blue bank in a big blue state in a big blue city that has now seen a massive failure.
Meanwhile, the Biden administration is blaming Republicans for the rollback of regulatory reforms, which even some Democrats voted to do. And here in Nashville, new parking lot at B&A now. It's a cell lot with 240 spots. It means it's 2.5 times larger than any other lot at the airport currently. The cell lot's about 3 miles from the terminal, which means it's a drive time of 5 to 7 minutes. The parking's free of charge, and it's available on a first-come, first-served basis. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
All right, let's talk about Genesis diamonds. Did you know that 2 diamonds that can have the same carat weight can look totally different? One can look much larger than the other. So take 2 1-carat diamonds, for example. One can look like 1.5 carats, the other can look more smaller, but they weigh exactly the same. This is just one insider secret you will learn at Genesis Diamonds. The difference is how the diamond is cut. See, one diamond can be cut deeper, have more weight at the bottom, making it appear smaller on the face. Another can be cut less deep and has a bigger facing appearance. At Genesis, you can see examples of both, and you can perhaps get that bigger diamond look for a much lower price, just based on the particular cut that you choose. That's why it's important to always see a diamond in person before you buy it. At Genesis Diamond, they want you to see and learn how to maximize your budget. You will also learn how diamonds are priced on the world market and how small variations in size can cause big changes in price. If you're making a decision about buying a diamond this year, let the non-commissioned experts at Genesis help you make the decision a smart one. No middleman, no nonsense, no retail pricing games. Just good, honest diamond education. Honestly, they'll give you the straight stuff. Genesis Diamond and luxury pre-owned Rolexes as well. 2 locations, Green Hills and Cool Springs. is 37 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. And I must tell you that spent a lot of time today making sure that we resolved all our technical issues. I mean, if you don't know, we've had a little trouble here, and I had to get on the bridge of the Starship Eurofarb and make some changes to make sure that our TV product is everything that we want it to be for you. And so Super Talk TV is back up for this program. I mean, the other guys didn't have a problem. I was having a problem. It was a computer issue. But I took a ball-peen hammer to the computer, and I made my best effort, and I beat the technology into submission.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I bought new technology, and that solved the problem. As an expensive solution, but a solution nonetheless. So now you can watch us again on Super Talk TV, on our Facebook page, our Twitter page, our YouTube page, and the ever-popular Twitch. You can watch there. Now, you may also know that for a few days, the much-beloved YourFarb site was down. But YourFarb.com is back up. And so if you want to get information about, the things that we do to prep for this show, and where we get our information, what we base our stories on, you can find it at YourFarb.com. And you can find the link to YourFarb at 997WTN.com. The text line's always open at 615-737-9986. Now, one other thing that I want to talk to you about, and that is what's going to happen on March 30th. Because on March 30th, we're going to have one of these events in the public. It's going to be down in Murfreesboro, an evening with WTN. So I'll go down to the Parthenon Grill about 3 o'clock, start my show. I may actually be in the parking lot. It's not real clear. But I'll be one way or the other, we're going to be doing the show down there from 3 to 6. And then at 6 o'clock, we will begin a 1-hour broadcast over dinner with all 4 hosts. That's right. All 4 hosts will be there, and it'll be a good time. Last time we went down to Murfreesboro, it was a big old blowout. Standing room only. What a great time it was. So March 30th, an evening with WTN Live, and you can find out about all the tickets at supertalk997wtn.com. Go there, and you'll be able to find all the tickets. Hope to see you there. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll have a good time. I want to talk a little bit about what happened today at the Pentagon. Number one, we have this issue with regard to the drone that was knocked out of the sky by Russian jets. If you don't know the story, real briefly, we had an MQ-9 drone in the Black Sea flying. That's the body of water just south of Ukraine. We're flying along there, doing the things that drones do, which is looking around and trying to figure out what we. And up come a couple of Russian jets, Su-27s, and they started harassing the drone. They even dropped jet fuel on the drone, dropped jet fuel on the drone midair. And there's pictures apparently of this the military has. And then I don't know whether it was intentional or not, but one of the jet pilots came in contact with the drone, knocked out its prop or hurt its prop, and the Pentagon decided to splash the drone in about 4,000 to 5,000 feet of water in the Black Sea below. This is an international incident. This is a very unusual thing when a military jet has contact with one of our, even though it was not manned, it was a drone, and people take that very seriously. At the Pentagon today, there was a briefing. You're going to hear first Secretary Austin talking about how, we're the United States military and will go in international waters anywhere we damn well please to go. And then you'll hear the rest from General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, about the drone and what we know. Here it is.
The United States will fly and operate wherever international law allows.
Was it intentional or not? Don't know yet. We know that the intercept was intentional. We know that the aggressive behavior was intentional. We also know it was very unprofessional and very unsafe.
So we know the intercept was intentional. I mean, what he's saying there is, it is often the case we fly a drone and they'll come up and they'll sort of check us out, look us over, and then they usually just fly away, or they escort the drone for a while. But it never usually gets to the point where the drone is being hassled. But so we know the intercept was something that was intentional. That much is true, but not uncommon.
The actual contact of the fixed-wing Russian fighter with our UAV, the physical contact of those two, I can tell you with certainty that we have absolute evidence of the contact and the intercepts, et cetera, and it's very aggressive. You've heard about the dumping of the fuel and everything else. We have video evidence of all that. So
now, I mean, that's because the drones have cameras, and it was being recorded at wherever the pilot was located, probably in a little small trailer in Las Vegas. That's where they fly drones all over the world out of Las Vegas. I read that if they make a control movement at that trailer in Las Vegas, that it takes about a second and a half for the command to reach the drone anywhere in the world by satellite. And then for them to see it again, it takes about another second and a half. So about 3-second delay from the time you make a movement to whether you know what that movement has done. I don't know how they make these things work, but they do. One way or the other, they have video being recorded from the cameras on board the drone. So there's no doubt as to what happened.
There's no question that part of it's intentional. The actual physical contact of the aircraft, that I'm not so sure. But we will continue to...
Saying that the actual dumping of the fuel was intentional. But did he intend to actually bump the aircraft, or was that just sloppy airmanship? It could be either way.
That I'm not so sure. But we will continue to exercise our rights in international airspace. It probably broke up. There's probably not a lot to recover, frankly. As far as the loss of anything of sensitive intelligence, etc., as normal, we would take, and we did, take mitigating measures. So we are quite confident that whatever was of value is no longer of value.
So mitigating measures, what is that? Well, there is top secret technology on these drones that we wouldn't want the Russians to have access to. So they took mitigating measures. What does that mean? Well, reading between the lines, I'm guessing they have the ability to remotely destroy the sensitive parts of the drone so that there's nothing left to recover. And then the fact of the matter is, apparently it fell into waters that were somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 feet deep. I didn't know this, but the average depth of the Black Sea is 4,000 feet. That's deep. That's really deep. And apparently at its deepest point, it's 7,000 feet deep. Wow. That's something else. So apparently, recovery of the drone would be very difficult. We don't operate, at least with naval ships in that part of the world. We fly drones there, but we don't operate ships, or as far as I know, submarines in that part of the world. So getting a recovery of the remains of that drone would be hard for us. It'd be very hard for the Russians. And quite frankly, they got other things going right now. So interesting to see how this all is going to play out. This is, I think, the thing I'm most concerned about is that we are in a very tense time. We are in a proxy war with Russia in Ukraine. And the Ukrainians are being extremely effective and killing many, 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 many Russian by the use of United States military equipment, but more importantly, the technology that we give them in the way of not the technology, the intelligence we give them. They get equipment, they get intelligence, and they use the intelligence to use the equipment very effectively. It's very easy to have a tremendous impact on the Russian military if you know exactly where they are, which is, one of the things that drones provide. So I understand the frustration of the Russians. I understand why they would want to, they took umbrage at the fact that the drone was getting near Ukraine. but you just can't take out an aircraft in international waters. If you want to harass a drone, that's one thing. I guess they're free to do that. According to the Pentagon briefing today, the Russians have gotten very aggressive with the United States and with the UK and other people who are providing support in Ukraine as well. So at a tense time where we're in a proxy war with Russia, these kinds of things have the potential to escalate out of control. And just think about it. I mean, let's just exclude China for a moment. Just talk about us and Russia. On our side of the equation, we have a president who is cognitively in decline. We have a president who is not all there. And that's very concerning. On their side of the equation in Russia, they got a president who is said to be extremely paranoid and may be very ill. Many people believe Putin doesn't have anything to lose. And it's scary when you have that kind of an environment, and we got jets bumping around with our drones and acting very aggressively against other U.S. military assets. And then you mix into the whole thing what's going on with China and their very aggressive action. I keep looking at the situation and I say, man, let's hope that cooler heads prevail here. Because we're talking about very tense situation with the Chinese and the Russians at a time when we have a president who really is not up to the task of being a wartime president, should that happen. And sure as hell have a vice president who's not capable of doing that. So I worry a little bit about how these things are unfolding on the world stage. I don't mean to be a worrywart, and I don't want you to go home and stay awake at night thinking about these things so you can't sleep. But I mean, honestly, we ought to be paying very close attention when these things happen. 49 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You know, the folks at Eurofix have a very different business philosophy. They staff all their locations with more staff than the average auto repair shop, just so they can be ready when an emergency pops up out of nowhere for you. That's right. Listen, have you noticed how hard it can be to get a right now appointment at a vehicle repair shop? Some dealers, you can wait more than 2 weeks just to get an appointment, but not at Eurofix. Eurofix has been offering quality repairs to beat the dealer without dealer pricing since 1999. Plus a 3-year nationwide warranty and the staff to fix your car and fix it now. If you're tired of waiting forever to get your car into the shop, call Eurofix. Owner Aaron Stokes says, we will never be too busy for our customers. We're here to take their pain away now. Eurofix repairs all European cars. Eurofix says yes to speedy repair when others can't or won't. Family owned for 24 years. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com.
The U.S. and the Russian military are speaking about this U.S. drone that was downed by 2 fighter jets yesterday, a massive fire at a homeless encampment in Nashville, plus an update from a story yesterday about that live barricade situation. We tell you all about it right here, Super Talk 99.7 WTN at 6 o'clock.
All right. Thank you very much, Mac Morey. Listen, time for me to tell you a little bit about the folks over at Rhino Shield. Here's what you need to know. A nice day like today, you think, well, it's time to do a little work around the house. Maybe you're thinking about painting. I want to stop you right now before you go any further because, you could paint your house. It'll look good for a little while. But the fact is, paint cracks, it chips, it peels. And before very long, guess what? You're going to have to paint again. But what if I told you there was a product that could be applied to your house instead of paint that would leave it covered for 25 years? That's right, a 25-year warranty against cracking, chipping, and peeling. Well, you'd say, tell me more. Well, I'm going to do that. It's Rhino Shield, not paint, 10 times thicker than paint, infused with special 3M ingredients, billions of microspheres that allow the coat to expand and contract. And that's why they offer a 25-year warranty against cracking, chipping, and peeling. Clay Morris and the folks at Rhino Shield of Nashville have a great reputation. They care deeply about doing quality work. Listen to what Amanda said. My home turned out beautifully. They showed up on time. The crew was professional and courteous. I had some custom painting that needed to be done, and they did an amazing job. Sound like something you'd be interested in? Give Clay Morris a call, 615-474-1729. Learn more at rhinoshieldnashville.com.
Six o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories right now. 56 degrees, sunny day in Nashville. Weather forecast traffic report coming up just a few minutes away. The U.S. and Russian military leaders have spoken about the U.S. drone that was downed by 2 Russian jets this week. Andy Field gives us the latest.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin saying he immediately called Russia's defense minister when that country's jets brought down an unmanned U.S. drone over the Black Sea.
We take any potential for escalation very seriously, and that's why I believe it's important to keep the lines of communication open.
Secretary Austin calling Russia's engagement reckless, but wouldn't say how he resolved the incident with the Kremlin.
And here in Nashville, there was a massive fire at a homeless encampment underneath a bridge that was on Nolensville Pike. Channel 4's Danielle Jackson brings us some details.
TDOT reopened the bridge about an hour ago. Fire officials and emergency officials got on the scene around 12:30 this afternoon. The bridge caught on fire, and we're told a man and a woman were arrested on the scene. They were both charged with reckless burning. Now, TDOT also inspected the bridge after this fire and then decided to reopen this road.
And that fire is still being investigated. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen will testify before the Senate Finance Committee tomorrow. Tennessee U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn joined WTN's Nashville's Morning News, and she says she's going to ask questions about the Silicon Valley Bank collapse and why the Biden administration worked so fast to ensure everyone, even those above the FDIC insured threshold of $250,000, that they'll get all of their money back.
Instead of being the guarantor of last resort, this administration is jumping to the front of the line and saying we're going to be the guarantor of first resort.
Meanwhile, the Biden administration blaming Republicans for the rollback of regulatory reforms, which even some Democrats voted to do. And we got an update on a story from yesterday. We reported on the live barricade situation that happened all throughout the day and evening on Candlewood Drive. It was hours of standoff and negotiation. After that, police entered the home just before 7 p.m. They found the suspect dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The man involved in the standoff has been identified as 29-year-old Tyler Gardner. Murfreesboro police said Gardner apparently went to his parents' house in Hendersonville after a shooting at a Murfreesboro apartment. That shooting left his girlfriend, 30-year-old Eva Silver, dead. A member of Silver's family found her dead inside the apartment around 11 a.m. And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, good evening, everyone. I guess it seems strange to say evening now that it's still so bright outside at 6 o'clock. But I've always thought that 6 o'clock denoted evening, right? I think we'll go with that. Good evening, everyone. 7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Boy, it's beautiful outside. I just stepped outside for a moment, and me and the Bulldogs stretched our legs, and it's just gorgeous outside after being so cold last night. And I don't know if you've walked around, your property and looked at those. We had some beautiful trees that were budding out and starting to these beautiful blossoms. Oh, they're gone. That freeze last night really did a number on them. So anyway, it's funny. Cold, so cold that it kills the blossoms, and then a beautiful afternoon. Welcome to this time of year in Middle Tennessee. Got all kinds of stuff to talk about this hour. I want to remind you that you can listen to us on the radio or you can watch us on Super Talk TV. Yes, our technical issues have been resolved. You can find us on our Facebook pages, our Twitter pages, our YouTube pages, our Twitch pages. We'd love for you to join us and watch a little bit about what happens. You'll see a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes. Today, there was a big hearing, not in the swamp, not in Washington, D.C., but down on the Texas border, and it involved our Tennessee Congressman Mark Green, who's been in charge of a committee that's supposed to look into what has gone wrong at the border and try to get answers there. And what a, by the way, a feather in his cap to be appointed to that job, an important job, I think, to get the answers, and I'm glad that Mark Green is there. However, all Republicans showed up in this little place called Pharr, Texas. No Democrats on the committee bothered to make the trip. They're playing games here. They're playing games. You'd think, that they would like to be able to explain to their constituents what's going on at the border because everybody thinks it's a problem, not just Republicans. But no, they decided not to go down there. They are playing hooky. If you have a congressman and they got a committee, and the committee holds a hearing, they ought to be there. It's not like they're personally having to pay for the travel. It was all, at taxpayer expense. But they're down there trying to talk to people on the border, on the front lines, trying to get answers, and the Democrats were AWOL. They were. A point that was made by Congressman Green.
Now, this was supposed to be a full committee, but as you can see, the Democrats are not here. They decided to not show. Why? Well, they said coming here was just a political stunt. You tell me, taking a hearing to the point of the crisis for a first-hand view, or boycotting a hearing because we're going to shine a light on the truth. Which of those is the political stunt? I'd say the political stunt is these empty chairs.
I think a point well made. It's embarrassing that the Democrats were not there. Now, they heard from a Border Patrol frontline chief, and there's several of the chiefs that have different sectors with the Border Patrol. This guy's name is Raul Ortiz, and he's asked some very direct questions. And, look, what a position to be in. You're on the Border Patrol. You're under oath. You're there to answer questions. You've got to give honest answers. You can't tell a fib. But I'm telling you, by testifying, you understand and telling the truth, you're going to be 180 degrees out of line with what the Secretary of Homeland Security maintains and what your own president maintains. I think Chief Ortiz is a man with a great deal of integrity. Listen.
Chief Ortiz, does DHS have operational control of our entire border?
No, sir.
No, sir. Almost 2 seconds he paused before answering that question. You know what ran through his head. Oh, man. I have to be honest here. Yes, it's going to be directly in contradiction with what my boss, Secretary Mayorkas, has said. Yes, it's going to be in contradiction to what the president has maintained. But a man of integrity, he paused but answered honestly.
No, sir.
No, sir. We do not have operational control of the border. A little bit later, another question for Chief Ortiz. It had to do with the number of gotaways. By some estimates, 1.3 million gotaways. Now, what are gotaways? Gotaways are the people, you see them on your cameras, you see them on the sensors, you know they're there, you just can't get to them. You know, you're so limited in resources that you can't get to these people, and they come across the border, and they just disappear into the fabric of America, and you don't know anything about these people. You've had no contact with them. Well, those are the gotaways you know about. The line of questioning had to do, okay, we know that you say there are about 1.3 million that have come across that you couldn't touch, you couldn't get to. Well, what about the unknown gotaways that you don't know anything about? Do you have any estimate on that? Listen to this answer.
At 385,000 gotaways so far this fiscal year, we continue to refine that number. I've got to do a better job of accounting for the actual encounters.
Chief, I have limited time. I just need a number. What percentage of the 1.3 that you know got away, how much more do you think got away that you don't know about?
In my estimation, based upon the situational awareness that I have, probably be between 10 and 20%, sir.
More?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Wow. His estimate is, okay, 1.3 million. He said, 300,000 and change this fiscal year. Well, that started in October. That's just since October. That first part that he said, that's just between now and last October.
At 385,000 gotaways so far.
That's right. 385,000 gotaways since last October. But overall, 1.3 million that they know of got away. And then at the very end, he said, well, what about the ones that we don't know about? Do you have a rough estimate of what that might be?
Probably be between 10 and 20%, sir.
More?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, 1.3 million times 10 or 20% more. That's concerning. That's really concerning. So that was going on today. Look, Mark Green doing a bang-up job. Your Tennessee Congressman Mark Green on the job, asking the right questions. I very much would like to go down to one of these hearings. And I've reached out to Mark Green's office saying, next time you go, I would like to go along. I'd like to go down there and take another look and be there and look at the things that you're looking at. Look, I think that probably there's several things that are going to be big in the upcoming 2024 election cycle. But I think the Biden administration has got some real explaining to do to the American people. And can we just once again reflect on the integrity of this Border Patrol sector chief when he's asked, do you have operational control of the border? What a moment of real integrity.
No, sir.
Telling the truth, even at the risk of hurting his career. Really something. In other news from the nation's capital, I told you the other day that the president of the United States had approved was known as a Willow Oil project in Alaska. I think reluctantly, I think that what they're trying to do is they're trying to make the case that, you know what, we're going to have to run for re-election, and if the Republicans are going to paint us as being against, being energy independent, and we need to be able to say that we approved something in the way of new drilling. And so they approved this Willow project. It's not a big project, not a huge project. Well, here's the other shoe to drop. A number of prominent environmental organizations filed a federal lawsuit Wednesday morning, that's today, against the Biden administration, challenging the decision to greenlight a massive oil drilling project in Alaska earlier in the week. The coalition of groups said President Biden's approval of the Willow project, an oil drilling project in northern Alaska forecasted to produce more than 600 million barrels of crude oil over a 30-year lifespan, undermines his climate agenda and goals of significantly slashing greenhouse gas emissions over the next decade. The Greenies are furious, and they're just absolutely apoplectic about this. The Department of Interior finalized the decision, approving 3 of the project's proposed 5 drilling sites on Monday. I think it's been 5 years that they've been trying to get this approved. You used to hear the Biden administration say, "Oh, we've got all of these areas that have been approved for drilling." Well, no, we've let all these leases. They haven't been approved for drilling. Getting the lease is the first part. Then you have to get permission to drill there and get the permits to drill there. And in this particular case, that took 5 years. Again, the Biden administration has ruined what we had going. We, at one point during the Trump years, we were energy independent. We had so much oil and gas that they were practically giving it away. And on top of that, your gasoline prices were incredibly low. We had energy that we could actually export because we had enough in America that we could send some other places. What a great position we were in because we were, for a moment there, energy independent. Well, what happened to that? What happened there? I'll tell you what happened there. The Biden administration came in and started changing all the policies. Made it more difficult. Again, our economy during the Trump years, strong. Biden years, a disaster. The border, secure in the Trump years. Well, today we don't have operational control of the border, according to a Border Patrol section chief. Energy independent during the Trump years. Now our gas prices are through the roof, and we are not doing what we need to do to keep oil and gas coming into this country going forward because the Green New Deal gets their nose out of joint every time you try to do something. I mean, how in the world could anybody look at the Biden administration and think that they are effective? That they're doing the right thing for America? You know, when we start running the 60-second commercials talking about what the Biden administration has done to America, I hear the president say all the time, let's finish the job, let's finish the job. And you know what? I wonder what is the job. Is the job destroying America? Because they're doing a pretty good job. I don't want them to finish. You're destroying our economy? Yeah. Is that the job? I don't know, because you're doing a bang-up job of it. Taking away our energy dependence? Yeah, you're doing a great job there. Destroying the security we had on the border? Yeah, that's a great job. Wonderful job there, Joe. Messing up Afghanistan and then bringing us, because we are perceived as being weak in the world, and we end up in a proxy war with Russia because Russia thought, well, I can take those guys. They're not going to do anything. Huge miscalculation because we were perceived as being weak. Bang up job, Joe. Bang up job. I tell you, Americans need to finish the job and be done with these guys. Unfortunately, we have the better part of 2 years to wait until that can possibly happen. What a mess. 22 minutes. I make that 20 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Let me tell you about Dr. Stephen Poss over at the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Clinic. I mean, do you sometimes wake yourself up with your own snoring? Is your sleeping partner giving you the sharp elbow? Have you been sent, you know, this happens sometimes, over to sleep on the couch because, well, your partner needs to get some sleep? Why don't you do something about it? Set up an appointment with Dr. Stephen Poss at the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Clinic. 2 locations for your convenience. One in Brentwood, one in Murfreesboro. He makes a customized FDA-approved mouthpiece, proven to be effective in treating mild to moderate cases of sleep apnea. I'm telling you, these things work. Did you try the CPAP? I know. Let's see if we can find something better. Set up an appointment with Dr. Poss and find out if this approach will work for you like it worked for me. Here's what Julie said. My husband got his mouthpiece. He stopped snoring at night. Our bedroom's much quieter. I'm sleeping so much better. It's been a win-win for us. So start getting a good night's sleep. Feel more energized during the day. Contact the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Clinic at your earliest convenience to set up an appointment with Dr. Paz. 615-850-8445 and learn more at drpaz.com. I don't know if you heard this or not, and I don't follow these things as closely as others do. I will be the first to admit you, but I do have a morbid curiosity about Aaron Rodgers. I mean, what happened to this guy? At one point, he used to be sort of it seemed like a happy-go-lucky guy. Had a nice sense of humor. You saw him on commercials, and you thought, well, Aaron Rodgers, I'd like to sit down and have a beer with Aaron Rodgers. Seemed like a decent dude. But then he just went bizarre, all over the map. And now I'm finding that apparently he attended some kind of thing called a darkness retreat. Maybe this is what I need. That you apparently do like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 days of complete darkness and get back in touch with yourself. Well, after he did that, he said he was planning to retire, but he did the darkness retreat, and he decided I could play one more season. And then he found out that his team, the Packers, wanted to go a different direction. So where's he going to end up? Well, that's a pretty good question. But it looks like it's going to be the New York Jets. The future Hall of Famer quarterback said to Wednesday his intention is to play for the New York Jets next season, adding that he's waiting for Green Bay and the Jets to hammer out a trade. Rodgers, age 39, announced the news this morning on the Pat McAfee show with the former Green Bay, I guess he's a Green Bay punter, Pat McAfee. He said he was 90-10 leaning toward retiring in February, but then he went to this mysterious darkness retreat. Exiting the stay, he felt motivation to play another season. I don't know. A darkness retreat. I looked it up. What is it? It is the mystery of the unknown. It's that you have to show up fully by facing yourself. It's the curiosity of being with yourself alone, without any distraction. What is it for? Well, they say it's beyond what is known as the darkness. It's like the activation of certain glands and healing traumas and near-death experiences. It's to drop the expectation of what you think you know about the dark and let the experience unfold itself. The advanced practices require your full commitment and previous meditation experience. In the dark, there are no substances, no plant medicine, no tobacco, no drugs, no coffee allowed to reveal the inner light. Though you get vegetarian meals delivered to you with care and love. I don't know. It doesn't sound like it's an unparalleled, they say, experience, an intense seclusion in which the practitioner is deprived of all light and sensory distractions. You know, in some places that's considered a torture. But apparently if you go to a dark retreat, you pay big money to be plunged into darkness. Retreating in complete darkness is a practice common to many of the ancient and contemporary spiritual traditions of the world. Oh, man. I don't need any of that. But that's apparently was the changing factor for Aaron Rodgers, the ponytail wearing, man bun wearing quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. Can you imagine that the Green Bay Packers would have a quarterback? The Green Bay Packers. I mean, that's a blue collar market if there ever was one. The Green Bay Packers. Legendary Green Bay Packers has a quarterback with a man bun. What is this world coming to? It is 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Let me tell you, if I could, about the Assisted Family Care. What a good company they are. I mean, really think about the loved ones in your family who are getting a little older. You may, back during the holidays, remember? You had everybody gathered around, and you may have noticed that there was a member of your family who's, really struggling. They're older. They need a little help. They can't do the things that were once so easy. Maybe they just need, somebody to help run errands. Maybe they need somebody to come by and check on them once a day. I mean, you no doubt know that they need there, and you may not be in a position to help them because you've got your own busy life and maybe even distance involved here. Well, that's where Assisted Family Care can help. They will connect you with a responsible, compatible helper to assist with your loved one's daily needs. And if your loved one is a veteran or a spouse or widow of a veteran, they could very well qualify for a little-known benefit to help cover these kinds of expenses. Assisted Family Care has years of help getting people in Middle Tennessee who qualify, give them access to that kind of benefit. So Assisted Family Care, they can help you. They are there for you. Visit assistedfamilycare.com. That's assistedfamilycare.com. Or call this number, 615-833-9725. Again, 615-833-9725. It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. About 22 minutes left, and then we'll hand it over to Mark Levin, the great one, and he'll carry on for hours. I'm telling you, good stuff there. A couple of, I just got an amalgam of stuff, just a sort of cornucopia of things that I want to get across the goal line. Like this soundbite, I've been holding on to it today, and I haven't found a place to use it, so you just do it now. Nancy Pelosi being asked about whether or not Joe Biden is going to run for re-election. She's doing an interview. And here is the answer.
I don't know if he's going to run. He hasn't shared that confidence with me.
But you're for it if he does.
Of course, yeah, I am definitely for it, and I hope that sometime soon he will make that decision. Right. Everybody said, "Well, he's old and all that." Yeah, well, I'm going to tell you something. He has great judgment.
Well, hold on a minute. What was that last part? Did I get that right?
He has great judgment.
Oh, hold on a minute, Nancy. Are you talking about the guy that is currently the president of the United States?
He has great judgment.
No, come on. Give me a break. Not really. I mean, can you point to one thing that is that says this man has impeccable judgment? I mean, for one thing, let's just talk about who he chose for his vice president. He chose somebody who is completely inept, perhaps the most unlikable politician in America today, and that's saying a lot because Hillary Clinton is still out there. I mean, honestly, can you point to anything that he's done that proves that the man has, as you put it,
he has great judgment.
Great judgment. I mean, honestly, Nancy, there's actually a joke that goes around in Washington. What is the best foreign policy thing to do at this particular moment? The opposite of whatever Joe Biden says. Because he's notorious for having bad judgment. Bad judgment with Afghanistan. Bad judgment about securing the border. Bad judgment about this. The list is as long as my arm. Nancy Pelosi thinks
he has great judgment.
He has great judgment. Yeah. You hold on to that, Nancy. I don't know when he's going to make his announcement. I keep thinking that somebody will pull him aside and say, "Joe, you just can't do this. You can't run." And but all the signs point to yes, he's going to run. I don't know. Then there was this brief encounter between Senator Rick Scott of Florida and Shalanda Young, who is the White House budget director. Rick Scott is asking Shalanda Young about the president's new budget and had some very, very, very pointed questions in which she made some rather completely honest admissions. I was quite surprised that she was so honest about it.
Our budget focuses on the deficit.
It focuses on the deficit.
Our budget focuses on the deficit, which in turn has an impact on the debt.
So that's a no. Okay, that's fine.
Doesn't have any impact on the debt, in case you missed that. So she's admitting we focus on the deficit, we don't focus on the debt.
So is President Biden's budget balanced? Meaning, are we going to spend more than we collect?
Senator, no, because we believe that would hurt working families.
So it's not a balanced budget, and it doesn't do anything to resolve the deficit or the debt. They focus on the deficit, not the debt.
Our budget focuses on the deficit, which in turn has an impact on the debt.
So that's a no. Okay, that's fine. So is President Biden's budget balanced? Meaning, are we going to spend more than we collect?
Senator, no, because we believe that would hurt working families.
All right. I think the debt hurts working families as well, but that's just me. Tennessee House Speaker Cameron Sexton has laid out something that I think is very interesting. We talked to him about this during the State of the State. He has filed legislation that would create an 11-member task force helmed by the Tennessee Education Commissioner Penny Schwinn, who we also talked to at the State of the State, to study a process required for a state to forego federal funding. We've got a little money stuck back, a rainy day fund. And so the thought is, what if we spend some of that money to replace what it is that we get from the federal government? And then we could do in Tennessee with our educational process exactly what we wanted to do without the Department of Education having anything to say about it. I love this idea. I love that. I mean, listen, if you want to, get away from the Department of Education, which is just a disaster, everything that they push on us. I would love to be able to do that. And so they're now going to start a committee, and Penny Schwinn's going to head it up, and they're going to begin meeting in August and expected to deliver a strategic plan to Governor Bill Lee and the General Assembly by December 1. In her role as chair, the legislation further requires that Schwinn notify the U.S. Department of Education by August 31 and advise them on Tennessee's intent to explore the possibility of Tennessee rejecting federal funding. This comes from the Tennessee Star. The proposed task force will be comprised of the following individuals: 3 members of the state Senate as selected by the Speaker of the Senate, 3 members of the state House as selected by the Speaker of the House, 1 district superintendent appointed by the Speaker of the Senate, 1 district superintendent appointed by the Speaker of the House, 1 teacher appointed by the Speaker and 1 of the House, and 1 appointed by the Speaker of the Senate. There's no provision for Lee to select a member on the commission. The bill requires that in making appointments, the speakers strive to ensure that membership is inclusive rather than geographic, urban, rural, and economic diversity, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I like this idea. Let's go forward with this. We'll have to get Cameron Sexton. I think he'll be with us probably next Tuesday. That's generally the way it's been working out. And we'll ask him about this. But, I mean, imagine being able to tell the federal government to go pound sand. We don't need your federal dollars and all of the strings to become attached with them. We're going to do it the Tennessee way. Speaking of education in Tennessee, we have talked from time to time about this third grade retention law that says if your kid is in the 3rd grade and doesn't meet the certain metrics, doesn't meet and pass the test, and certain benchmarks, I guess is the better word, that they might have to repeat the 3rd grade or go through some remedial summer school or something. And what's really so concerning for many parents in schools, they get the report cards and the kids making A's and B's, and then they get another letter that says, but by the way, they're not meeting the benchmarks and therefore may have to repeat the 3rd grade. Parents of 3rd graders in the state of Tennessee are losing their minds over that, understandably so. I understand why they're upset, because they had no idea that their kids were not actually being educated based on the grades they were bringing home. But parents have been raising unmitigated, unholy hell about it, and it looks as if there are several measures now pending before the General Assembly that might change this retention law. HB 1364 doesn't change how 3rd grader retention law affects students, but would change who receives the progress reports. HB 0270 proposes a second chance for 3rd graders who do not meet expectations on the TCAP ELA exam, but allow schools to factor in other state reading reviews throughout the year. So they would, have a little flexibility there. HB 0978 would let parents file an appeal with the Tennessee Department of Education on behalf of their students. And HB 0437 would add details to the appeal process to the Department of Education website for parents and local school leaders to reference. I like the idea of making sure that kids, as they graduate the 3rd grade, can actually read and write. Because, if you talk to educators, they all will tell you the same thing, and that is that it's such a critical moment. The 3rd grade is such a critical moment that if you don't have the ability to basically read and write and have the very basics of math and all the skills that you need, you're going to struggle in your educational process. If you get that right, then their chances of these kids doing better in school as they go forward is much higher. It's a crucial moment, and I hope that we, in some way, can make the schools become accountable for teaching these kids the very basics. In some school districts, not all, it would be great if they focused on that. to the exclusion of all the woke stuff that they're trying to shove into the agenda. Let's focus on the basics of just reading and writing and arithmetic. I know that sounds very old school and quaint, but what a concept. Teaching third graders how to read and write, making sure they have the basics so they can excel as they go forward. I hope they don't water it down too much. That's my great hope. It is 49 minutes now past the hour of Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, you've heard me talk about the Wellness Institute of Nashville and how I've been going through the non-surgical spinal decompression treatments on my neck and back. I'm telling you, it has helped me a lot. Now I've gone through 24 treatments, and now I'm back to doing just routine maintenance now and then. But if you think this might work for you, and there's a way to find out, I'll tell you about that in a moment, this is the time to take action. Because for the rest of the month, you still got half the month to go. Your non-surgical spinal decompression treatments are half price off. So call 615-246-5009. Set up an appointment with Dr. Kevin Mitchell to find out if this approach is what would help your situation. By the way, first consult, $23. You get an exam, consultation, x-rays if needed, all the things you need. Dr. Mitchell will be your doctor just like he's my doctor. Find out more about all the things they can do for you at the Wellness Institute of Nashville by going to their website, painisbad.com. 56 minutes now past the hour. You listen, if you're headed out to B&A, they have officially opened up a new cell phone lot. You need to know about this because it's not in the location of the old one. The old one is closed. And so if you need, and while they're doing all the construction out there to use this temporary lot, you need to know that it's on Murfreesboro Pike, about 415 Murfreesboro Pike, about 240 spots. It's larger than the old one, but it's 3 miles from the terminal. And so if you're going out there, you need to understand that once you get called that your honey has landed, you're going to have to drive about, 5 to 7 minutes over to the airport. Parking, of course, at the cell phone lot is free of charge. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back here tomorrow at 3 o'clock for another exciting edition of The Drive. Mark Levin is next.